My parents tried to take my 60 acres to help my brother heal. Then I brought in the meanest lawyer in Amarillo. Hi, I'm Luke McKinney, 34, and 6 months ago my own parents sued me over 60 acres of Texas dryland I bought with my bare hands and my last damn dime. It started with a deed and ended with betrayal that still burns hotter than a Hereford July. I'd spent a decade chasing combines and wheat contracts from Dumas to Dodge City. Grease under my nails, sunburned down to the bone, sleeping in the cab more often than in an actual bed. My friends were Case IH machines and diesel tanks, and every dollar I didn't spend went into a dusty envelope tucked inside the floor panel of my fifth wheel. I was 34 when I walked into a title office outside Amarillo and dropped $116,000 of my own saved money, every cent legal, taxed, and earned, for 60 acres just outside Friona. Old cotton land, flat as a promise, with a busted windmill and an irrigation well that needed love. But it was mine. In my name. Luke McKinney. Clear as day in black ink on that title. I felt like a king holding it. Hell, I felt like a man for the first time. I should have known better than to show my parents. It was a Sunday after church. I rolled up in my old F-250, proud as hell, to give them a look. Thought maybe for once they'd see me, not just the kid who fixed his own hand-me-down boots with baling wire, not just the solid one they never had to worry about. I thought maybe Dad would clap my shoulder and say, "You did good, son." I thought Mom might smile that soft smile she used to when I brought home straight A's before Tyler flunked math and stole the spotlight. What I got instead? Tyler, 29 and still living at home, stumbled out of the Tahoe in pajama pants and a vape cloud, looked around and said, "Damn, you really bought this? Must be nice." Mom took 50 pictures. Dad scowled like I just paved over the family grave. Tyler kicked at the dirt, stared at the flat horizon like it owed him something, then took a selfie with my gate. Captioned it, "Finally standing on my future farm. Big moves coming." Posted it before I'd even shifted back into drive. I made him delete it. He grinned, fake chill. "Relax, bro. Just hyping the family brand." But I saw it. The glint in his eye. The way he was measuring it like a dog casing the fence line. 3 weeks later, a deputy showed up at my shop door with a manila envelope. Summons. William and Denise McKinney v. Luke McKinney. They were suing me for the land. My land. Said it had always been understood that any property acquired by the oldest would be held in trust for the youngest, to ensure equal opportunity and personal growth. Translation. Tyler flamed out again, and now I was supposed to hand him the reins to the one thing I built that didn't carry his wreckage. The worst part? My own father had signed it. My mother had paid the damn filing fee with the credit card I helped her refinance in 2021 when they were drowning in debt from Tyler's second stint in rehab. I stood in that shop with grease on my shirt and betrayal curdling in my throat. I'd spent years thinking if I just worked harder, stayed quieter, showed up and shut up and gave what I could, they'd finally see me as something more than the dependable backup son. But in the end, all they saw was someone who could foot the bill for Tyler's next comeback story. And this time, I wasn't going quietly. Maria Gutierrez was the meanest lawyer in Amarillo, and exactly who I needed. She didn't waste a second sugarcoating anything. Sat down across from me in her glass-walled office with a legal pad and a Whataburger iced tea and said, "Let me guess. Baby brother's a screw-up and mommy thinks land is therapy. How much damage we talkin'?" I told her about the 60 acres. The down payment. The years I'd spent scraping it together. She just shook her head. "They're insane, but lucky for you, I eat entitlement for breakfast." We filed our response 2 days later. Denial of all claims. Motion to dismiss. And a countersuit for legal costs. But discovery changed everything. Because see, my folks didn't just sue me out of nowhere. No. They'd been planning this. Text between Mom and Dad talking about how I wouldn't mind sharing if he really loved his brother. Screenshots of Tyler sending photos of my land around to buddies, calling it my place. Bragging that he'd be farming by fall. One message said, "Dude, my big bro's too dumb to say no. They'll guilt him into it." He wasn't even pretending to work. Just vaping through job interviews and men girls who sold protein shakes. He posted a reel the week after the lawsuit hit, him doing push-ups in front of a John Deere calendar. Caption. Getting fit for farm life. Comments full of, "Let's go king," and "Manifest that land, bro." Meanwhile I was working 90 hours a week trying to get the busted windmill pumping again, and rebuilding a pivot with parts I'd begged off an old client near Clovis. Didn't sleep more than 5 hours for a month. Every time I looked at that field, all I could think about was how many nights I'd spent in a combine cab dreaming of my own rows. My own call. Now they wanted to call it charity? Tyler's depot was a circus. Showed up in $200 boots I recognized. I'd bought them 3 years ago, when he promised me he was getting clean and needed something for interviews. Sat down like he was on Dr. Phil. Said he suffered panic attacks from knowing his land was under someone else's control. Claimed Grandpa had promised him the next acreage to come available, and that I'd stolen that dream. Maria pulled out a printout of his latest Instagram story. Tyler on a party bus in Lubbock, 3 girls in his lap, champagne flying. Caption, Texas King, baby. He blinked, adjusted his collar, then said, "That was metaphorical." Judge Ramirez didn't even lift an eyebrow. Then they brought in Mom. She cried on cue. Said I'd always been cold. That Tyler just needed something to believe in. That land was spiritual for him. Luke's never been emotionally generous, she said, dabbing at dry eyes. He doesn't understand that Tyler's recovery depends on feeling valued. Maria asked. And what does 60 acres of prime West Texas farmland say about value? Mom smiled like a snake. That he matters. And Luke doesn't? Silence. For the first time since I was 5 years old, I realized that nothing I ever did would be enough for her, because it never had been. The trial wasn't supposed to be a trial. At least, that's what Dad had told everyone at church. Just a misunderstanding, he'd said. A little legal clarification between sons. All family. But when the court date landed and they realized I wasn't folding, they brought out the full PR campaign. Pastor's wife called to pray over the situation. Aunt Linda emailed a devotional about forgiveness and sacrifice. My cousin Darren, who hadn't texted me since the '08 hailstorm, messaged, "Bro, just give Tyler a shot, man. You'll get another chance." Another chance? I was 34 years old, sunburned half to death, with a sciatica nerve that flared every time I stood up too fast. I'd slept in rest-stop parking lots more nights than I could count. I hadn't had a chance since I left home at 17 with a $600 Snap-on toolbox and a chip on my shoulder. But Tyler? Tyler had chances like other people had lunch breaks. New ones every time he flubbed the last. He wrecked the first truck I ever helped buy. Burned through 3 landscaping jobs in 2023 alone. Spent most of last summer stoned in his room watching crypto tutorials and blaming the Fed for his bank account. And now he wanted my land. Judge Ramirez, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, sat down that morning with a docket in one hand and a coffee in the other. I nodded at Maria. She just said, "Let's roll." Tyler's lawyer opened with a slideshow. I'm not kidding. Slide 1 was a picture of Tyler as a toddler in overalls holding a toy tractor. Slide 2 was Grandpa standing by the old Massey Ferguson with the caption, "Legacy Dreams." Slide 3? A screenshot of my land with red arrows and intended for healing in Comic Sans. Maria leaned in and whispered, "I want to punch this man in the throat." The lawyer droned on about familial duty, unwritten expectations, and emotional inheritance. By slide 6, I was clenching my fists so hard the calluses cracked. Then Dad took the stand. He straightened his BLO tie and launched into a speech about family loyalty. Claimed he'd pulled me aside at 19 and said, "One day, you'll be successful, and you'll set your brother up. That's the McKinney way." That talk never happened. What he actually said at 19 was, "If you're dumb enough to quit college for farm work, don't come crying to me when your knees give out." But sure. Let's rewrite history with a little gospel twang and a slideshow. Maria stood, quiet as a scalpel, and started carving. "Mr. McKinney, did you contribute to the purchase of the 60 acres? No, but... Did you co-sign any loans? No, but we had an understanding. Did your name appear anywhere on the deed? No. Did your son, Luke, ever agree verbally or in writing to hold the land in trust for Tyler? No, but... Thank you. No further questions." Then Tyler strutted up like he was accepting a Teen Choice Award. He looked out at the courtroom, gave a nervous laugh, and said, "This isn't about money. It's about fairness. My brother's always had a head start. I just need one too." Maria smiled. "You're 29, correct?" "Yeah." "You've never held a job longer than 6 months?" "Life's complicated." "You currently reside in your parents' home?" "For now." You're asking the court to transfer 60 acres of working farmland to you? If that's what's fair. And what qualifies you to manage a farm? Tyler blinked. I'd been watching YouTube tutorials. Someone in the back snorted. The judge didn't even scold them. Maria waited. Then pulled out her final card. A TikTok from 3 days before trial. Tyler, standing in front of a new flat screen in Mom's living room. Champagne in hand? Caption, land coming soon. Manifest it, manipulate it, make it mine. She hit play. The audio. If your big bro won't hand over the goods, lawyer up and make M. The judge didn't blink. Then he said, We'll take a recess. Back in 30. Maria looked at me with a grin like a blackjack dealer holding 21. I felt my knees go weak with something I hadn't felt since I signed the deed. Hope. That 30-minute recess felt like a slow boil under the courthouse fluorescence. I paced the hallway outside courtroom 3B like a bull in a squeeze chute. My boots thudded on the tile while Tyler lounged against the opposite wall, scrolling his phone like none of it mattered. His earbuds dangled, and every so often he'd glance up and smirk like this was just another episode of a show he was starring in. Mom sat on the bench beside him, dabbing her eyes again with a tissue that still hadn't gotten wet. Every so often she'd whisper something to him and stroke his hair like he was still 9 years old, and not a grown man with vape cartridges in his pocket and unpaid parking tickets stacked like junk mail. Dad? He stood near the water fountain like a statue carved from frustration. Jaw clenched, arms folded tight, eyes locked on me like I'd broken some sacred family oath by daring to work hard and win. That's when Uncle Walt showed up. Walt's my dad's older brother, retired rancher from over in Tulia. I hadn't seen him in years, not since Grandma's funeral when he told Tyler, The only thing you've ever planted is a lie. But there he was, in a pearl snap shirt and jeans black from the road, holding a manila folder thick enough to break noses. He walked right past Tyler without a glance and clapped my shoulder hard. Heard there was a reckoning going on, he said. Brought receipts. Maria lit up like a Christmas tree when she saw him. Turns out Uncle Walt had been Grandpa's executor, and he'd kept records. Old ledgers. Notes. Letters Grandpa wrote both me and Tyler. Mine said, Luke's got the hands for farming. Give him space, he'll make it grow. Tyler said, tell the boy to pay off that four-wheeler first. Then we'll talk. Walt took the stand when court reconvened. He didn't say much, just read the letters out loud. Then held up a photocopy of a birthday card from Grandpa to me in 2020, 3 months before he passed. Inside it said, Hope you find your land, son. When you do, plant deep. You earned it. The courtroom got real quiet. Even Tyler quit fidgeting. Judge Ramirez leaned forward. Mr. McKinney, was this information ever shared with your family? Walt nodded. I sent copies when Dad passed. Guess some folks misplaced them. Mom looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. Dad just sat there, stone-faced. Maria rested our case right after that. The plaintiff's attorney stood up, shuffled his papers, cleared his throat, then sat back down. Judge Ramirez sighed like he'd aged 10 years during the day and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Final remarks? Tyler stood again. Still cocky. Still clueless. All I ever wanted was a fair shot. And maybe a little recognition. My brother, he's always had it easy. The family just hands him stuff. That was it. That was his big closing argument. I laughed. Not out loud. Not even a smirk. But something deep inside me finally cracked loose like a rusted bolt turned clean. Because the truth was, the only thing that had ever been handed to me was responsibility, and a broken-down toolbox full of other people's excuses. Court adjourned for the day. Verdict coming in the morning. Maria turned to me as we walked out, her heels clacking like punctuation marks. You nervous? I shook my head. Nah, I said. I'm just done. And for the first time in my life, I actually meant it. I didn't sleep the night before the verdict. I tried. Got back to the trailer on the edge of my land, where the wind always finds a way in, and I sat in the little kitchen nook eating cold brisket out of a Ziploc while the pivot lights traced circles across my field. I stared at that land like it might up and walk away if I looked down. Every single acre felt fragile now. Like if I blinked, they'd take it. Midnight came and went. I lay down on the cot, boots still on, staring up at the water-stained ceiling panel and thinking about everything I'd ever done to make my family proud. My first welding job at 16. Dad didn't say a word. Graduating tech school with honors? Mom brought me a leftover bundt cake and said Tyler was struggling with a breakup. The year I paid off their mortgage behind the scenes? They told people Tyler had helped. Just to build his credit. I tried to stop caring 1,000 times. But there's something about being the older brother, it's like a leash made of guilt, and every time you think you've chewed through it, they tug. That morning, I showered with water that stank faintly of iron, put on the same suit I'd worn to Grandpa's funeral, and drove into Amarillo in silence. The truck radio stayed off. Just me and the wind and a knot in my stomach the size of a seed bag. The courthouse parking lot was already full. Tyler was leaning against the Tahoe in a brand new Pearl Snap, still tagged. Probably from the Depression Fund Mom gave him every time he fake cried about purpose. He was vaping a watermelon cloud and smiling like he'd already won. Mom was adjusting his collar. Dad had his arms crossed like someone owed him an apology. Maria met me on the steps. You ready? She asked. Nope, I said. But I'm here. Inside, the judge shuffled in, robes fluttering like a storm front. Everyone stood. Everyone sat. No preamble. No drama. This court finds in favor of the defendant, Luke McKinney. The words didn't hit at first. Just air. Then Maria squeezed my arm and whispered. That means you won. I exhaled so hard it felt like I hadn't breathed in 10 years. The plaintiff's claims are found to be without legal basis or credible evidence. All counterclaims dismissed as moot. Legal fees and court costs in the amount of $18,750 to be paid by the plaintiffs. This matter is closed. Tyler stood up like he was going to object. The judge cut him a glance so sharp it could have sliced alfalfa. Son, you need to grow up. And maybe, just maybe, get a job that doesn't involve hashtags and handouts. Courtroom buzzed. Someone in the back chuckled. Dad turned purple. Mom started fake crying again. Tyler stormed out first, knocking over a chair with the drama of a daytime soap villain. Out in the hallway, Dad cornered me. Hope you're happy, Luke. He spat. You just humiliated your whole damn family. No, I said, real calm. You did that when you turned your back on your own son because the other one needed another freebie. He lunged like he wanted to say more, but Mom pulled him away. Let it go, she whispered, but her eyes were doing the math. Court costs. Lawyer bills. Reputation. Tyler sulked near the exit, thumb jabbing angrily at his phone. Probably posting some new saga about betrayal. I looked at Maria and said, Is it over? She smiled. Legally? Yeah. Personally? That's up to you. We walked out into a gust of cold wind and a sky so wide it made you forget how small courtrooms are. I climbed into my truck. Fired it up. Let the engine hum while I sat still, watching a lone red-tailed hawk circling above the courthouse like it knew something I didn't. That day, I didn't drive home. I drove to the land. Parked on the rise. Walked the rows in my scuffed-up boots. Bent down and pressed my hand into the soil. Mine. Still mine. And for the first time since this all began, I let myself feel it. Peace. 2 days after the verdict, the first of the letters started showing up. Typed, not handwritten. Formal font. From Dad. Luke. Despite our differences, I hope you understand the pressure we were under. Your brother is not well. We acted in his interest, and maybe not in yours. For that, I regret the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? You sue your own son, try to strip him of land he broke his back to buy, and call it a misunderstanding? I didn't respond. 3 days later, another letter. This one from Mom. Sweetheart, I know this has been hard for you. It's been hard for all of us. But families recover. You and Tyler were so close once. Remember when you gave him your Nintendo in 7th grade? He still talks about it. Yeah. He also pawned it 2 months later for gas money to drive to a girl's house in Amarillo. Crashed the car. Lied about it. Guess she forgot that part. The messages kept coming. Mom sent texts full of Bible verses about forgiveness. Dad left voicemails that got shorter and more bitter with each passing day. One just said, You made your bed. Don't come crawling when you realize Tyler needed this more than you did. Crawling? I was the one still working 12-hour days, fixing my own busted irrigation line when a pipe cracked, replacing bearings in my pickup between spraying runs, driving grain trucks till midnight. Tyler? He posted a reel a week after the trial. In it, he's sitting in a hot tub, shirtless, wearing sunglasses at night, talking about how some people got lucky and forgot where they came from. Caption: Don't worry. Bounce back season is coming. Bounce back from what? Reality? I didn't respond to that either. Instead, I started building. Welded a new gate sign, McKinney Farms. Just me. No initials. No brothers. No family crest. I put up a windbreak along the north edge of the field using cedar posts I scavenged from a neighbor's old fence line. Poured a slab beside the shop for a feed bin and hauled in gravel for the drive. Every nail I hammered was therapy. Every fence I tightened was a declaration. This ground wasn't going anywhere. Neither was I. But the more I worked, the more I realized I wasn't just trying to repair land. I was trying to repair something inside myself. All those years I'd stayed quiet. Bit my tongue. Paid the bills. Gave the benefit of the doubt. All the birthdays where Tyler got praise for trying and I got silence for succeeding. I used to think being the strong one meant holding everything up. Carrying the weight so no one else had to. Now I knew better. Being strong meant drawing the line. One cold March morning, I found my uncle's old irrigation flag markers in a box in the shop. Bright orange, faded from sun and time. I walked the edge of the field and planted one at each corner. Not because I needed to. Because I could. I stood there in the wind, hands on my hips, cracked skin burning from the cold, and smiled. 60 acres. Bought, paid, and protected. No brother, no father, no ghost of who I used to be was going to take this from me. Not again. Spring came hard and fast. The kind of Texas spring that smells like wet dirt and ozone, where storms roll in like they've got a score to settle. My pivot was finally up and running, after 3 trips to Lubbock for parts, 2 busted knuckles, and 1 late-night call to a buddy in Kansas who talked me through rewiring a fried control panel over speakerphone. But damn if it didn't hum like a hymn now. Milo's sprouts popped up green and stubborn, same way I felt every time I stepped out of the trailer with a thermos of gas station coffee and cracked my back like a 70-year-old. I'd never felt more tired, and more alive. Then came the knock. It was dusk. I was in the shop changing out the fuel filter on the old Deere when I heard tires on gravel. Looked up, wiped my hands, stepped outside. Tyler. Standing there in fresh sneakers, hoodie half-zipped, hands buried in the pockets like he was waiting for the world to give him something. No warning. No call. Just showed up. I leaned on the doorframe and said nothing. He kicked at a clod of dirt, didn't meet my eyes. So, he said. Guess you're really doing it, huh? I didn't answer. I thought maybe we could talk. I didn't move. Didn't invite him in. Didn't offer him a damn chair. He sighed. Look, man. I didn't mean for all that to go down like it did. Mom and Dad, they pushed it. Said it was time I stepped up. You tried to steal my land, I said flatly. He flinched. Just a twitch. Then tried on a grin that used to work when we were kids and he wanted me to take the blame. I mean, you've always had more than me. I stepped closer. You ever put in a 14-hour day harvesting wheat in 105-degree heat with a busted AC and no backup? Sleep in a combine cab because there's nowhere else? Miss 5 Thanksgivings in a row because the winter wheat in Kansas ran late? He looked down. No. You ever patch a pivot with duct tape and prayer just to keep your crop alive another week? No. I nodded. Then don't talk to me about what I've always had. He shuffled. So what now? You just gonna cut me out? I stared him dead in the eye. You cut yourself out when you took a crowbar to my combine and called it therapy. He finally looked ashamed. Or close to it. I was pissed, man. I felt like you didn't believe in me. You're 29, Tyler. At some point, you have to believe in you. It's not my job to fund your identity crisis. Silence stretched between us. The wind picked up, carrying that dusty sorghum scent that smells like work and hope and pain. Then he said, real quiet, I'm thinking about moving to Oklahoma. Working with Uncle Dean on his cow-calf operation. I just nodded. Good. He turned to go. Paused. You ever gonna forgive me? I shrugged. Don't need to. Forgiveness is for people who've changed. He looked back, eyes tired. You really think I won't? I didn't answer. He drove off without another word. Dust rolled up behind him, but it settled fast. And for the first time in my entire damn life, I let it. That summer, the Milo came in strong. Rust-red heads waving like they knew I'd earned every inch. I paid off the loan, poured a new pad for a future barn, and slept better than I ever had. Dad never called. Mom sent a card for my birthday, unsigned. Tyler moved to Oklahoma. No updates. No drama. And I didn't miss it. Some nights I park on the rise, boots up, beer cold, and just listen. To the wind. To the pivot. To peace. 60 acres. Mine. Still mine. Forever.